This morning I woke up in a curtain. Oh God, I was a prisoner here. Yeah, could not recognize the faces standing over me. They were all dressed in uniforms of brutality. Hey, how many rivers do we have to cross before we can come to the bars? All of the gas it seems we have lost. We must have really paid the cost. That's why we're gonna be burning tonight. We're gonna burn, burning tonight. One more thing, burning on pollution tonight. Oh yeah, yeah, burning on pollution tonight. Oh, stop them, give me the food and let me grow. Let the root plant take a flow. Yeah. All them drugs gonna make you slow. Yeah. It's not the music of the ghetto. Yeah. We bring the way against all the tears. We bring the way tonight. We stronger. We bring the way tonight. Said yeah. We bring the way tonight. No matter how much you're behind, you got to reach your goal. And no matter how much it might be steep, we never stop. And no matter how dangerous it can, we never fall. Cause Rasta every angle from love, you hold on the the ocean may be a million miles wide, you got to reach your goal. No matter how things may be tough, we got to be rough. No matter how long the journey, we never get weary. Cause the rest at the end by down, they fall down from the plane. The ocean be a million miles wide, you got to reach your promise. No matter the things they do, we've got to get through. No matter how long the journey, we never never get weary. Comes the rest of the anger. Oh, not underplay. No matter how things might be tough, we got to be real. No matter how the fire may be red, we never get burned. No matter how chicken may shine, you got to be strong. God, rest and the anger. You hold on under blade. When we are hungry, we get food to eat. When we are thirsty, there's no water to drink. We won't give up on praising God. We never stop praising God. 'Cause Jah will provide for us. Jah will provide for us. We are uneasy and no words to meditate. When we are tired, there's no place to rest our souls. We keep on praising Rastafari. We never deny our see, 'cause Jah will provide for us. Jah will provide for God's own birthday. Yeah, wipe the patch of hope and the birds of journey. When the sun of month got no way to hide his face. From the burning sun, from the rain, the Lord I wonder why must the Israel children cry alone? And most of all, the wicked are so strong. My brethren, my sisters, the Lord I wonder why. Yeah. Don't blame the earth, don't blame the sea and the trees. Don't blame me, the Lord I wonder why. My brethren, my sisters, the Lord I wonder why. Don't blame the earth, don't blame the sea and the trees. Don't blame me, yeah.
Can people hear me? Jonathan?
Yes, I can hear you.
Me. Okay, 1 second. I'm just going to put my headphones in and see if you can still hear me. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
You can. I just saw somebody, he put a hand up. Okay, fantastic. Let's get started. So today is the last day you can nominate in the Trashy Awards. And I'm just going to explain a little bit about the Trashies. And then I'm going to introduce Jonathan and we're going to get on with it. So give me a second while I introduce this year's Trashy Awards. So so the Trashies is a news media equivalent to Hollywood's Razzies. They were created because we believe in the importance of a free, fair, and representative press. We have been doing them every spring since 2014. Obviously, we've closed various times over the years, so we haven't done it every year, and it's been quite a while since we last did it. Basically, the awards are to challenge journalism that's lazy, bigoted, ill-researched, and misinforming. It's easy for writers to avoid reading the comments and to swerve their critics on Twitter, or now it's called X. But we want audiences, especially audiences of colour, to come into the conversation and discuss the problems of journalism that makes space for racism, xenophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, every kind of phobia, including also a few isms as well. Classism, that's something that we've put onto the agenda this year as well, because it's important, because I believe 97% is it of our press, or last time, or maybe 94% last time I heard, were white and mostly middle class. So it's hard for a black or brown or even white working class person to get into the media and and make a difference, because if you want to do media, you'd hopefully make a difference in whichever area you're in, whether it's arts or investigative journalism or documentary, whatever, you want to make a difference. So it's hard for people. Maybe they get onto the ladder, but they may not climb that ladder. So I have this thing where so often we're always interns but never the actually sort of employed. It's an issue. So, in 2018, we awarded the Trashies. So the trashiest article was awarded to The Guardian View on Gender Recognition Act, Where Rights Collide. And also, it was a double whammy. And it also went to Is It Possible to Draw Serena Williams Without Being Racist? At The Spectator, no surprise. And Rod Liddle, won that. And Kath Viner for the editorial, because it was the Guardian View. So that was the whole Guardian decided to be what they were. And we got the trashiest publication was The Spectator. You say no surprise, but sometimes you do get a little bit surprised. So this year we've got lots on the agenda. Not to mention just for the fact that we've just had some of the most tumultuous weeks in our history, in British history, in UK history, with far-right racists, xenophobes, and fellow travellers, all sorts, on the streets attacking people at random. I'm sure you've seen the videos. I'm sure you've seen what's come out of that is various headlines, various articles that haven't been any better than really the people on the streets attacking us. So, that's the reason we're doing the Trashies at the moment. We usually would have done them in the spring if we were around. But I just want to read a little bit more and then bring Jonathan in. So in previous years, scrolling articles nominated for the Trashies yields a quite depressing but unsurprising number of examples where the mainstream media dehumanize, patronize, and direct blame towards people of colour. Muslims must flush out killers in their midst, says Daniel Finkelstein, or I should say Lord Finkelstein, in the Times. Islamophobia is a reasonable reaction to jihadi violence and Islam's aversion to criticism, said an Australian journalist called Ted Lapkin. And Nick Cohen, on the other hand, one of our homegrown Islamophobes, he might say. So he said how liberal Britain is betraying ex-Muslims. He rates ex-Muslims, but actual Muslims, it seems, were not in part of his what he was interested in. So the Trashies help to unpick this depressing, misinformed consensus, reminding everyone that the media is dominated by a white and usually privileged class is, after all, a factor at play here. But the movement isn't just about disrupting accepted narratives. So we want to provide a base of solidarity for people of colour, for anybody who's targeted on the base of race or religion, or we're not a single track kind of organisation. So when the mainstream media tells a story that's impossible to identify with, this kind of support is, to borrow from James Baldwin, indispensable. So we are having this tweet storm so that we can get a few more nominations, because in 2 days' time, we are going to have created a poll where we will have collected all these nominations that you see under the hashtag, and we will have put them in the poll for you to vote for. The public will get to vote. They also get to vote for, the columnist of the year, the publication of the year, and the broadcast of the year. When I say of the year, the worst. So we get all the articles and all these other categories as well. But then after that, so we'll give you a couple of weeks to vote for that, and we'll be keeping an eye on the numbers very closely, trust me. We'll send out some sort of press release so all the people who are actually nominated get to know that they are nominated for the trashiest articles of the year or the trashiest broadcast of the year. And then we're going to have a little bit of a party in September. Details to come. So what I'm going to do now is bring in Jonathan. Jonathan, I asked you to have a look at some of the nominations. What did you want to talk about, please?
Well, I mean, I think what I'd like to say is perhaps a bit more general and sort of take a step back from the themes which you've well outlined over the last few years, and sort of have a look at where the current debate is on what we're seeing in our press and on our screens, of course. And because I think that the debate over the last couple of weeks has been very interesting about the role of social media, and in particular, of course, the platform we're currently using and its owner. Because on the one hand, I think it is absolutely right to point out that, for example, the misinformation that was the immediate cause of the recent riots, and particular the anti-Muslim aspect of those riots, was spread on Twitter, right? And people are, I think, understandably concerned about that. It isn't just Twitter, and I think, drawing the connection, what is happening on social media, and in particular the role of Elon Musk, is deeply worrying. But equally, it cannot be separated from what's happened in the mainstream media over the past few years, which you've just talked about. These two things are not separate. And I do worry that some of the focus on Musk and Twitter, while it is justified, detracts from the fact that this sort of wider media ecosystem. Equally, if we just talk about the Spectator or whatever, it is, after all, a fairly small magazine. And then people keep on pointing out to me on Twitter X, people who read the Spectator aren't the people who go out and try and burn down hotels with people in them. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a connection. And I think the sort of key challenge for those of us who worry about there are several challenges here. One is, first of all, explaining and understanding that connection, right? Those connections exist. Stuff which begins life in the Spectator finds its way perhaps in a distorted form onto Twitter X and then into the streets. And equally, stuff from the furthest reaches of of Twitter X finds its way one way or another into the mainstream press. That goes both ways. So first of all, is trying to understand and communicate that it's not, you can't look at these things in isolation, and certainly know what's been happening over that. And then,
do you think that there's a resistance from the editors in chief of all these magazines to look at it? They don't want to see it in isolation.
Absolutely. I mean, and as I and Sundar Katwal have been pointing out for some time, you can actually, say in the British press stuff which most people would think is most people probably assume you couldn't get away with either legally or under the codes of conduct, but because of the way that the IPSO code works, it's perfectly legal, or it's perfectly permissible to be racist, or indeed sexist or transphobic or ableist or whatever, in a way which most of us would think unacceptable, and which you aren't allowed to direct at an individual person. So the IPSO code does not stop you saying Jews and Muslims are vermin. Quite literally, those words are perfectly permissible in the mainstream press.
Hang on. Has there been a test case on this? Is that how you know this?
Several. Right. But there's no ambiguity in the way that the IPSO code works here, right? It's very clear. You cannot say Jonathan Portis is Jewish scum. That's because I could make a complaint and I'd probably win, depending on the context. But if you say all Jews are scum, that's fine.
Right? Are you serious? Oh my God! So if you put people as a class, it means that's
only attacks on individuals are subject to the code. So that's quite it's an absolutely massive loophole, and that accounts for, I think, much of what some of the press has got away with in recent years, is that there is this, the current institutional framework and which is part of the way that they think, is that it's that free speech means that you should be able to express these opinions about groups, and there is effectively little or no sanction for doing so. And so something like the trashies is, as you said, it's a way of imposing that sanction. But how you get that narrative across to the wider, and then the question, I think, is the even more difficult, the much harder question is, of course, what you do about it, because I think we all, especially those of us who come, those who come from excluded or marginalized communities, free speech is a weapon and it's a value. It's something we need. We do not, and I'm quite careful never to call, in my many years of criticizing both the Spectator as an institution and the numerous individuals who write for it, I've never called it for it to be shut down.
No, right, yeah, okay.
Because,
but at this point, they're very much resisting some of there's been calls to arrest one of their associate editors. There's been people saying he's incited violence. And then we've got the chair, Andrew Neil, completely trying to deflect from it. He went a little bit strange about it, indeed. So is it not time to call?
I think that's an interesting, because I did not call for. I think you were the person who found Murray's video, and via me it became very much a mainstream thing for a couple of days. Yeah. I was careful not to say that I thought Murray should be arrested, although what he does was pretty clearly inciting violence, because I think it would, for several reasons. First of all, I'm genuinely not sure exactly where you should draw the line between direct incitement to violence and the sort of stuff he was saying. Second of all, because even leaving aside that, I think any attempt to arrest and prosecute him would have made him, in the eyes of the people who he claims to represent, a martyr, and would have backfired. And third, I think it is much more effective. As you said, Andrew Neil got quite rattled.
And very much so.
That is the sort of action that is required. You need people like, you need people to stop going to Spectator garden parties. You need people to start treating these people as, you need to be able to push the boundary of what is socially and politically acceptable. And while, I think there almost certainly is a case for using the law against some of what Elon Musk has been doing and permitting in the last few weeks. The law clearly does need to be tightened there. That is not the same as saying, we should be the right way, either morally or politically, or tactically, is to start trying to close down publications as opposed to making, and these things go together. It is much less, except, you do get much less visible public racism in this country than you do 30 or 40 years ago, right?
Well, I would have said that a month ago, perhaps.
I still think it's the case, as my friend and colleague Anand Menon said on the BBC show he was on this week. If you'd asked me, he's my age, 57. He said, if you'd asked me 40 years ago when I was growing up in Wakefield, would I take people being a bit racist behind my back in exchange for not being punched? I'd have said, yes, I'll take the not being punched, thanks.
Right.
But I think the point I was making is that progress, and there has been progress, was made by a combination of legal means. So the Race Relations Act and other things that have come through it, right past it, up to the Equality Act. But at the same time, it's also because we've made it socially and politically unacceptable to be overtly racist in most open public social situations.
But do you know what, Jonathan? I would say that there's a lot of black people, at least, people and Asian people, who would say they'd rather have someone be racist to their face and upfront with it than what we get at the moment in workplaces where you're undermined, where you're not promoted, and all of this stuff. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a very fair point, and an understandable one. And I have sort of said it myself that people should just come out and say it. And there are to get you asked for specific examples, and I mean to make the sort of point that you were making there. There was an article which I tweeted from The Atlantic, an American news magazine, published yesterday. I don't know whether anyone else has seen it, about the riots. And it is a classic example of that. It is full of, you can find it on my Twitter feed from this morning or last night, by somebody called Robert Forth. It's a classic example of that. It's full of there's nothing overtly racist. Well, it comes close in some places, actually. But it is very much that sort of dog whistle nudge. This is what people really think. This is what working class brackets, i.e. people who aren't working class but are white, are really thinking. This is what and so on. And you do sort of think, well, actually, sometimes you prefer the sort of fairly open racism of somebody like Matt Goodwin.
I mean, we've all faced it, I should think, but just that feeling that you're never going to get on in a job, and even if you make a complaint, they won't take you seriously. All of this stuff is, it's all sort of a drain on us, isn't it? That everyday racism. I think there used to be an account that used to, everyday sexism and everyday racism that would go through that stuff. But I mean, at the moment, we just won't want to be hit.
That's something on which I'm clearly not the best person to talk about for obvious reasons. So I won't presume. But again, I still sort of think that the way to combat that is it's a combination of legal and regulatory change and social and cultural change that you have to, that has to be, you have to embed it in society. Because, okay, so let's agree that's a problem for a lot of people, and I'm quite prepared to accept that. What do you do about it? You can't make it illegal. That's not. And I think there is a bit of a problem here on the left, as you sort of think, well, this thing is bad. It has unfortunate consequences. It leads to people being discriminated against. So we have to make it illegal. But the problem is you can't, right? You can make direct discrimination illegal, and we have, and we're, mostly do better than most countries in enforcing that. But if you want to do something about that sort of thing that you're talking about, the law is not the right way. It's unenforceable. So you have to change the culture. You have to change the way people think. And that's hard, and it takes a lot of work. And the sort of thing, and what you're doing here is the sort of thing that, I think helps actually, because you sort of, by calling attention to things and I think this is important, by calling attention to things which many people who are white or male or generally not disadvantaged wouldn't at first glance perceive as being racist or sexist or whatever. And the article I was just talking about I think it's a good example of that. Lots of people white people who read it might think, oh, well, I'm not sure whether I agree with all of this, but it's perfectly within the rounds of reasonable debate. So calling attention to that sort of stuff and calling it out, I do think is very important.
A little bit of history, actually. So we started in 2014, and we got lots of nominations. We sort of opened it beyond just a year or a short period of time. From the beginning of time, we asked people to nominate the articles, and there was some over the years some people that always turned up. You'd always get Rod Liddell, obviously. You'd pretty much always get Douglas Murray. And also, actually, quite often in the early days, David Aronovich as well. But then, what happened is we had people like James Kirkup and Suzanne Moore and David Aronovich coming to our Twitter and arguing about why am I nominated and all of this sort of thing, And then I did find over the years you did get less nominations for David Aronovich, and he's had some sort of Damascene conversion of late. A conversion that has conveniently wiped his memory of all the things that he wrote whilst he was at the Times. But nonetheless, we want to bring people in rather than push them away. So yeah, I think it does make a difference. People speaking, the below the line people getting a chance to speak to the above the line people. But obviously, we need this to go to a bigger audience. It can't just be us all the time. It's we have to have the white male, whoever listening to this. What do you think, Jonathan, about that? Getting to a bigger audience, making the people who need to listen?
Well, I wish I knew the answer to that.
Yes, don't we all?
I mean, I think, part of this is just about plugging away. Part of it is about taking platforms wherever and whenever you can find them, particularly, even in publications or outlets that you don't necessarily like. And part of it, yes. And I mean, and things like Twitter are good for this. I mean, as I said, you were the one who spotted the Murray thing, and that has come to the attention of millions of people. And I have to
millions, is it now? Bloody hell! I didn't know that. I'm sort of offline a little bit at the moment, so I haven't seen everything.
And I think that sort of illustrate, and that does help, because I think there were people. You and I have had the same opinion about Murray for some years, but there are lots of people who thought, well, he's a bit out there, but some of what he says makes sense, and at least some of them will have seen this and thought, oh God, yes,
what have I done over the years? Waved him through.
I understand now.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I'm just looking at something. So, have you heard of the Centre for Media Monitoring? Now, they're a new account that I hadn't seen. Oh, well, they've been around since 2018, and what they do is they clip, I guess, hosts. What am I saying? Like Talk TV, GB News, BBC, all they clip all these shows and they sort of dissect it.
Yeah.
And so I saw one that they did upon GB News, and I tagged it, the Trashies, and I'm gonna what's it called? I'm going to retweet it now so you can see it if you're able to. But I'll read what they say. They say, take note of this language on GB News. Far right who burned hotels, looted high streets, attacked mosques, violently assaulted police and minorities are described as protesters. Muslims who are mainly being attacked by racists are Islamic thugs. And that's literally what these two people on GB News have said. I mean, they're a great account to keep an eye on what's going on in the media. And there's other people that do the same, but I've just noticed them a lot recently. So I mean, they're great, but again, they haven't got many followers. Not everybody's seeing this. There's a great person called Saul Sanathuth, I think he's called. I might even invite him to the space.
There are quite a few accounts like Saul, and like there's Haggis.
Haggis, I don't know that one, but okay, great.
We tweet these clips and so on. So and all that helps, but I think it isn't, and particularly given where X is going, one has to be on it. I'm afraid I have to go in a couple of minutes.
No problem. Is there any final words? Because obviously we have had this big week with the Spectator associate editor, if I'm allowed to talk to call him that. Possibly not, according to Andrew Neil. But was there anything you want to say about that?
Well, just that I think every challenge is an opportunity, and the last couple of weeks have indeed been quite revealing. But I think there is an opportunity, to. I mean, Anand and I wrote an article today, which is in the Independent, but more generally about not so much about the media, but about where next for immigration.
Ooh, tweet that out so I can retweet that, please.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
We talk about immigration and what we should do, but I think there is an opportunity to reframe the debate, and we just need to try to take it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, Jonathan. I will see you on the Twitter streets. I know you'll be fighting the good fight as you always do. So thank you again. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Take care. So let's see who's around, and anybody who wants to speak, put their hand up so that I can know what to do. I'm a bit of a newbie at Spaces. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting for people to put their hands up and all of that stuff, I will ask you all to go to your favorite website. I don't know, whatever, the Times, the Telegraph, the Independent, the Daily Mail, or whatever. Find an article that perpetuates transphobia, xenophobia, racism, etc., and nominate. Use the hashtag and put the trashies, which is the hashtag, and nominate these articles. We want you to be able to vote. We want the public to be able to vote. And we know from previous years that people get into this. They get really into this if you haven't done it before. So I need you to start nominating. So I will retweet you as you nominate these things. Go and look at that website that I just mentioned. Sorry, that Twitter account that I mentioned, the Centre for Media Monitoring. There's also Media Lens. I don't know if they're still around. They do some of that stuff. Cage also, highlight some of the stuff in the media. We obviously do. So you can even just find it very easily. If there's any broadcasts, people clip shows. So the Centre for Media Monitoring, their Twitter handle is CFMMUK. I'm just retweeting them now, so you'll see it on the timeline. But yeah, please do nominate. And so what I wanted to also say is just that, I mean, I said a little bit about it earlier, but it's not just about disrupting the accepted narratives of the mainstream media. We want to be able to build some solidarity around this movement, or whatever we're doing. I don't know what you want to call it. But yeah, so we really just want this to be the biggest and bestest, the trashies that we've ever done. So is anybody? I see Michael's there. Michael, can I bring you in to speak? Would that be all right? Give me a thumbs up if that's okay with you. Oh, I've lost you. Oh well, I'm just going to invite you anyway. There you go. I'm going to invite a few people. Zhangli, there we go. Who's that? Yeah, Faisal, I've invited you as well. I'm afraid I don't really know the other people, so I won't do it for now. But if you've got something to say, just put your hands up, and I will let you speak, because it's a free-flowing thing today. So, Michael, you've got a invitation wherever those invitation goes. Faisal, you've also got an invitation. Zunling, you've got an invitation. So, would you like to speak? Just let me know. In the meantime, I'll just do a little bit more talking, I suppose. If you're not sick of me already, probably are. But yeah, so we're just here for the time being, just whilst whilst it's so volatile in the UK, well, in England especially, but also very much the Northern Ireland as well. We're here just to try and support our community, as our communities, as we navigate all of this stuff. So I think I've just had a message. Let me see if I can look at it so that I can see what's going on. I don't know how I do that. Give me a second. Oh, Michael, you've sent me a message. I don't know what it was. So bear with me as I stumble through trying to figure out how to get speakers and stuff. Don't you worry about that. Oh, right. Michael's in the middle of the dinner, but so maybe later, I hope. But I have sent some invitations to other people. So just put your hands up if there's anything that you want to say. I see Peter. Peter, are you still at You're Byline Times, aren't you? I'm going to send you an invitation because I think it'd be interesting to speak to someone from Byline. So bear with me a second while I give Peter Jukes a invitation to speak, and maybe he will, maybe he won't. I don't know, but the invitation is there for him. So I've got another DM. Michael Morgan says he's having jerk chicken. Lucky you. I had some prawn something, and it was very quick because I rushed out and I was meeting a friend, rushed to come back in. But anyway, you didn't need to know that. I'm just going to keep talking until we sort all this out and we get some more speakers and people joining in. So one of our old columnists, Raf, you might know on Twitter as Uncle Trash. He wrote a little article for us to launch off the Trashies, and he's a great writer who was a columnist for us for years. And so I found him. He was just someone who made me laugh on Twitter a lot. And I said to him, why don't you just thread some of those tweets together and put it in an article and I'll publish you? And, that was it. He was a columnist for years. I think over time he got very popular. So people tried to poach him, but he was loyal and brilliant. And he always stayed with us despite all the offers. So I'll just read a little bit of what he said in this article he did for us just last week. So he said, like a Labour government and white race riots, the Trashies are back for 2024 to cast a critical look at the journalism and media class and what they consider legitimate as journalism and comment pieces. For those who don't know, the Trashies are awards for bad journalism, particularly work that's prejudiced at best and straight up hate speech at its worst. There's a note of humour to it because it's run by those of us who often bear the brunt of some of this bile. I mean, you have to laugh, don't you? But the Trashies also serve as a buffer against the gaslighting of minorities by groups of journalists that refuse to take their concerns seriously, or are concerned seriously, as in the case of transgender activists. The Trashies also seeks to highlight systems and structures, and that is an important term, structures in mainstream publications that perpetuate a spectrum of negative tropes towards groups that are underrepresented in our newsrooms, from antipathy, I can never say that word, and antipathy to outright hostility. So there is no crisis of speaking about legitimate concerns about, say, there being too much immigration in the UK. The Trashies hopes to facilitate discussions on how minority groups, and we say minority groups, but people of colour are a global majority, are portrayed in the press, and how newspapers from left to right, I'm going to repeat that actually and flip it and reverse it, from right to left as well, left to right. These left and independent publications aren't, they too can perpetuate this stuff. Obviously, we've just had BBC Radio 4. They platformed Matthew Goodwin at the height of the race riots, and went on with Ash Shakar. I think that's how you pronounce it. My apologies if I got that wrong. But yeah, so it's not just your nominally right-wing papers like the Spectator, Daily Mail, and so on. There's other people on the left as well who can do damage too. So let me see what the state of the speakers and all of that is. Give me a second. Hey Peter. Hi, how you doing?
I don't want to follow Jonathan another pale male.
No, not at all. We like expertise and experience here. Tell me what you'd like to talk about.
Well, I was going to actually really Hardeep, our editor, should be here, because very much you talk about these structural things. That's kind of the emphasis. It's not the discrimination in the street; it's the structural stuff which still goes on. We saw these riots, but we have 30 years of newspapers creating Islamophobia and racism. I want to say we used to work together with you back in 2017. The Trashies combined with the Bad Press Awards.
Yes, I know. I mean, I was on a sabbatical then, so it wasn't me that you actually worked with directly. But yes, the organisation you did, and there's some great pictures of you guys. I think you had it at an awards ceremony. I'm not sure what happened.
John Cleese, Cleese, who turned out to be a bit of a problem himself.
Really? Oh gosh.
Oh well, he said something about London not being for the English anymore.
When was it ever? Are you serious?
No, about a year later, so we had to sort of distance ourselves.
Right.
But we love what you're doing. We should think about collaborating again. But I just wanted to say, you know, that you're right. It's kind of a problem on the left and right. There's a sort of, I'm hearing my echo here, but the left does it in a sort of patronizing way. The right is more overt. But I was just thinking today, what a lot of this reaction is from Musk and all these right-wing riots is there, you know, that's in the US and the UK, they cannot integrate with whatever you call it, a multicultural society, which is inevitable.
Right.
You know, we are now living demographically in the US and the UK in a multicultural society. And just the problems of integration are on the right. They're not with us.
I mean, I agree with that. That's the thing. It's like it seems to be the problem of the people who say it's a problem, and that we're the problem. But actually, it's them creating and perpetuating and making it all very difficult for us. That's something. I mean, that's hard to sort of comprehend in some ways. But no, I agree with you. But I agreed also with Jonathan that Musk isn't just, he's not only the problem. You know, there's yeah, it's, and you, I think, said 30 years, and it might even, I mean, it's longer than that if you look at stuff like the NF and before that, whoever that was and whatever, and all the collaboration with Northern Ireland when it comes to far right activism, if that's the right word, probably not the right word, but yeah, no. So sorry, I interrupted. Carry on.
No. I'm more interested in hearing what you said. My kid brother, my adopted kid brother, was half Bayesian, and definitely the levels of racism in the 70s were much higher. But I think what I'm saying is, you look at the success of London and Manchester and Leeds and Bristol. That's what they cannot abide. And they say London's a foreign place. It is now our home. This kind of society is our home, and the future is on our side. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Is Hardeep around as well? It'd be great to get her on if she is. I mean, I guess this was all a bit late notice.
I only just found this. She's editing our print edition, very much about who lit the fuses of the riots. You know, Nafeez Ahmed has had a brilliant investigation into the.
Yes, I started reading it. I haven't finished, but I always read Nafeez, so I will be reading that without a doubt.
So we're editing that for the print edition. But no, we must get you. We must, get you involved in the festival again, and working together, because it's been a long time since we've been in contact.
Well, we've kind of closed, to be honest, but there's some things happening, so maybe we'll be back. I'm not sure. That's breaking news for everybody who's listening. But yes, we closed in 2022, and we just came back for the far right riots, and because we thought we had a moral duty too. But you never say never. We'll see what happens.
Well, and also, maybe write a regular column for us, or do something.
Oh gosh.
Okay, not you.
No, I'm just laughing because earlier this morning I told my editor at the Canary that I hate writing, and he went quiet, and I find it quite torturous, but I only do it because I feel, when I feel like I have a need to. But there's lots of our writers over the years need platforms, so I will definitely send them your way. Do not worry.
And you're doing great to have you back. I've missed you guys.
And
I'll let somebody else speak.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Peter. I appreciate you coming in for that. Thank you. Take care. Bye. Hi. Oh, look, we've got another speaker. Actor. Hello. You can unmute yourself. How are you doing?
Not too bad. How are you guys?
Yeah, not too bad at all. We're just trying to do a tweet storm and get you guys nominating some more trashy articles. Yeah, basically.
Where to even start?
Yeah. So tell me. So one of the things that I asked Jonathan before he came in was just to have a look at some of the nominations that are already out there, and to maybe talk me through some stuff. But what did you want to say specifically? And just to say, Afroz, I just invited you, by the way. Oh, actor, you've muted yourself. Come back.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm back.
Yeah. So what did you tell me what you wanted to say today?
Well, to be honest, I don't even know where to start. I think so many things have been said, so I'm probably going to be repeating what others have said. I do want to say this, that there's a saying in the finance world that when the president speaks, the markets move, right? So when someone like Keir Starmer, he speaks, obviously he can move the markets as well. So seeing Labour...
Move the markets. Is that what you just said? Move the market.
Yeah, any announcements governments make, anything the leader of a country says, it does have an impact. It ripples through the airwaves, and it
Yeah.
gets reported in the press.
Mhm.
So Keir Starmer, right, and this Labour Party, it is so loath to actually call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, I can only conclude that this is because they instinctively believe in this stuff, that the grievances are real, and these people have to be mollycoddled and all the rest of it. Otherwise, if he stands up and he says that this is not who we see ourselves as, this is not what the UK is meant to be, this is not the image we want to project on the world scene. But to be honest, in a way, this train has left the station. The lead
Right.
up,
You think it's too late?
well, the lead up to 2016 Brexit election, right? It
Yeah.
was really clear. It was really clear what the referendum was about. It was, you basically ask a stupid question of radicalized people, and they're going to give you a stupid answer. So, even then, the Tory party, the Labour Party, they didn't really want to tell the truth about Europe. They demonized Europe. Obviously, that's out of the system now, in a way, not entirely, but at least Brexit is done. So they moved on to the next target. And
Right. Oh, hello. Hello. Actor, you went quiet. Can anybody else hear me? Actor? Okay, Afroz, can you come in? Hi there.
Hey, yeah, can hear you,
Okay,
Sam.
fantastic. I'm not sure what happened to
Hi.
Actor. Good to see you. Yeah,
Good to see
I
you.
saw that you nominated earlier today, so that's great to have you here, because I'd like you to talk us through what you nominated and why, please.
Yeah, so it was an article from the BBC, and it just, felt like, given the BBC's coverage of the genocide in Palestine, I think we couldn't not nominate them, to be honest.
So you nominated the BBC as a platform, as well as you nominated the article. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that anybody who has been paying attention will confirm that that article is only one of many, many examples of the BBC's blatant pro-Israel bias of, minimizing the damage that Israel has caused in Gaza.
Tell us, what was the article called, and just talk us through it. What can you?
Yeah, sure. Let me just bring it up. So it was the link. Actually, there's a different headline for the link preview that shows on Twitter. It says dozens reportedly killed in Israeli strike on Gaza. And the actual headline on the article says, Israeli strike in Gaza kills more than 70, hospital head says.
So, more than 70, they say the word people.
Yeah.
Or,
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't, it says, it goes on to say it in the article.
Oh, you've gone quiet again.
People.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I can hear you again.
Yeah, so obviously there's the issue of, I think it was a tweet by Frankie Boyle. He was like, oh, you would think anywhere else if it had happened, they would have mentioned that this happened at a school. Of course, they did not mention that in the headline. There was also no mention in the article of something that anybody else on social media who had been following accounts reporting on Palestine, on Gaza, the situation in Gaza, would have seen that in this massacre, bodies were so badly, I don't know what the word is. They were basically just eviscerated. There was practically no recognizable human remains. So they could not, there were loved ones who knew that that their family members were at this prayer at the school and had been killed in this massacre, but they did. random body parts in plastic bags weighing roughly 70 kg, like the average weight of a human being, for an adult. And they distributed these parts, these bags with random human remains to the people who, whose loved ones were at this prayer, without being able to identify who they belong to. And there was no mention whatsoever of any of this, of how, of the kind of weapon that was used, how badly, the kind of damage that it caused, the fact that it was from the US that that Israel got this weapon. None of this was mentioned in the article. Yeah, so the other thing was that so I follow Bisan Oda on Instagram. She posts more on Instagram than Twitter, and she shared a video.
Hello.
Where she was saying.
Sorry, yeah, you cut off for a second. Go ahead again.
Yeah, so Bisan was saying in this video, one thing she pointed out is that Israel, so in the BBC article, they parroted all this, Israeli sort of nonsense from the Israeli state, like their line about how it was very targeted. They killed this many Hamas officials, blah blah blah, Hamas sort of operatives, etc., etc. And one thing that Bisan pointed out is that they released a list of the Hamas operatives that the strike killed, which included names of people that they had claimed to already have killed in a previous strike. So can you imagine that Bisan, out in Gaza, surviving like a genocide in an actual active war zone, picked this up, but the BBC, with all its resources, did not. Either they didn't pick it up, didn't bother to check. Who knows? But anyway, so yeah, so that's why that particular article.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a definite contender for the Trashies Awards. Okay, yeah. Have you seen any of the other nominations? Did you have anything that you thought that stood out to you as well? That maybe.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, there's always whenever it's happened in the past, they're just always just, it's just like it kind of just exemplifies the state of the British media, to be honest. So it's very difficult to. I mean, I noticed that Diane Abbott. Nominated something. No, actually, sorry, no, it's not not actually Diane Abbott. It's somebody with a Diane Abbott. Really, account. But yeah, but there's always, to be honest, articles that are just sort of, you look at them and think, my God,
how did that pass? I want to differentiate because there's the writers and then there's the editors. It's the editors that commission this stuff. I know that because I often, I'm often someone who pitches to people, and they often gets rejected for these pitches, and I think the pitch is particularly good. There's stuff that people don't cover, but whatever. Except it's not really whatever, because they have a particular narrative that they want to push. There's and that is why some people get commissioned and some people don't, and often you'll find that black and brown people are shut out of this whole sort of media ecosystem. So we really, I think, need to look at the editors. Now obviously the Spectator has been very much in the news this week. Well, I don't know if they've made the news, but they've definitely made the Twitter streets. And you look at,
I think they always do. They're always in.
I mean,
they're always nominated.
They're always nominated. But it's, I mean, and they've also won Publication of the Year. Maybe they're not even people we should bother speaking about, except for the fact everybody has been speaking about them. But it's an editorial decision who they commission, who they employ. What do you think? And so I don't know if you saw Andrew Neil recently. What was going on with him? Good God. He was trying to deny that Douglas Murray was even an employee there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an institutional problem. I think that, the BBC, which is why I said that, I wanted to nominate the BBC as well, because just as an outlet, it has endorsed this kind of reporting on Gaza. This is the line that they are taking. There's a general kind of distrust of Palestinian sources. And that is a choice. That is a choice that editors are making, to not choose, to not treat as authentic the voices of Palestinians reporting from Gaza. So yeah, I think that it's definitely, it is an institutional problem, and editors are basically at the kind of, they're the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
They're at
That's the right word,
forefront of it.
gatekeeper. But so why is it that Al Jazeera English can get it right? I personally think they get it right. I don't know if you do, but what can they be replicated? What are they do? How are they getting so much better than our British broadcaster, who we fund?
I don't know if, I mean, it's a tough one to, I think the answer actually might be quite obvious.
But let's say it anyway.
There's,
Please.
let's, there's, I mean, the BBC has a kind of, it pretty much always seems to be reporting in line with what the establishment wants the narrative to be. Whether that is on strikes, for instance. So I wrote an article last year on kind of the way that the BBC reported strikes and the impact that, kind of disproportionately, for instance, highlighting disruption that it would cause to consumers and service users and so on. So it's always, whether it's that, whether it is Gaza or Palestine in general, or, pretty much any topic under the sun, it will always
Hello?
And kind of,
sorry, you cut out for a
hello?
second. Can you go back and make that point, please?
Yeah, so I was saying that basically whatever topic it is, it's always going to mirror the establishment line when it comes from the BBC. That's basically all they're good for now. I think that we have seen enough examples of that to be able to kind of draw that conclusion.
Yeah, so it's sort of from it's the top down. That's what needs to be tackled if we were to tackle it, I guess. But the BBC are interesting. I want to talk a bit more about the BBC. Anybody else who wants to come in on the BBC would be great as well. But stay with me just to think about how their board. I think they have a board. All the people at the top quite often come from, government. At least when the Tories were in. A lot of people go from number 10 into the BBC. How can that be right?
I mean, that is what kind of calls into question whether it is really a...
Oh, you've cut out again. Froze? Hi,
Hello?
you cut out for a second. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying that really is what calls into question this whole idea of them being like an impartial outlet. I personally don't believe that impartiality in journalism is real. Like, I feel like it is
admit your biases
it's like
and just work against them.
Yeah,
surely.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, like academics have spoken about how this sort of impartiality in journalism and objectivity in academia, they're kind of like two sides of the same coin. And it was mainly just the whole reason for putting it forward and promoting this idea was to undermine indigenous voices, and to sort of give authority to the white voice, to the white man's voice. So I think.
Oh, you cut out for a second. I think
it
might be me
that's these outlets that shout about impartiality the loudest.
Yeah. But what do we do? Right. Yeah. So I'm asking this question to everybody who's listening or following on tweets. What do we do with a problem like the BBC? Because they are our big broadcaster. We do fund them through the license fee. I don't want to stop funding them, but I'd like them to be better. So what do we do about that? So anybody who has thoughts on that, just put your hand up and I'll make you a speaker. Yeah, definitely. So Afroz, last time we spoke, you talked to me a bit about some research that you'd done, but I had to unfortunately cut you off because of just so many people and what we were doing. So maybe you could go through a bit of what you didn't get to say last time, if that'd be okay.
Yeah, no worries. I think I was talking about research that I did, like looking at this idea of Islamophobia are dealt with in.
Sorry, can you repeat that? You cut off for a second.
Sorry, I don't know why. I don't know if it's my connection. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
So yeah, I think I was discussing sort of racism and Islamophobia and the way that they are dealt with in English law, or English and Welsh law.
Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be like quite a clear demarcation between religious hatred and racial hatred. And what that's done is that it's made it quite difficult for racially diverse religious groups such as Muslims to make complaints about Islamophobia or to make complaints about religious hatred. And there's effectively a higher burden of proof for establishing a religious or Islamophobic hate crime versus saying that somebody was racist in a different way.
Right, that's interesting.
And so, yeah.
Hello?
Looked into a while ago, and basically I think the main kind of takeaway is that it's not really in real life, it's not that clearly demarcated, you know. If somebody is calling somebody a P word or a sand N word, how do we know whether it's because they are expressing animosity towards that person because of their Muslimness or their perceived Muslimness, or whether it's because of the color of their skin? And actually, what even is the point of making that distinction? Like, you know, if they're being like, if it's bigotry, if it's hatred, you know, and they're saying a slur, then that should be actionable, like full stop. But so the main takeaway is that the way that the law treats these things is not particularly helpful or productive.
And that's specifically in English law?
For the people who are most affected by it.
Is that specifically in English law?
It's in England and Wales, so yeah.
Sorry, no, so I was just asking, is that specifically in English law in the UK? Is it any better around the world?
Oh, sorry. That I don't know enough about laws in other parts of the world. I kind of looked a little bit at the sort of protected characteristics in the US, and it's somewhat similar, but in English law, there is a freedom of speech clause for religious hatred, which is what makes it particularly difficult, and which makes the burden of proof for establishing religious hate crimes higher, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay. And so you know, recently, I don't know if you followed Southall, is it? Yeah, Southall Black Sisters, that's it, isn't it? They had this case where these 3 women were racially abused and attacked, but the police decided to charge them with something. I'm still not.
I read about this.
And I mean, it's come out now just before they were going to go to trial. Obviously, they put them through hell for however long, but just before they went to trial, they closed the case, and then it meant that people could report on it. I think Channel 4, Simeon Brown did a report on it, and I wonder, is this the research you did or do does it dovetail with this case?
So the stuff that I looked at was particularly focused on Muslims and the impact of sort of religious hatred legislation on Muslims as a religious group. I think that the experiences of, you know, like this particular experience for these women, however, is, you know, it's the kind of thing that is shared by other marginalized groups as well. I think we can all kind of share our experiences with the police, with the criminal justice system, and the fact that we even quite often when we are victims.
Sorry, you cut out for a second. Can you?
Yeah.
Can you?
So I said it just shows that people from marginalized communities do tend to be disproportionately targeted, especially like even when we are victims. Yeah.
And I mean, you yourself, you wear a hijab. Do you think you've been targeted, especially because of your headscarf? Sorry.
I don't know if I've actually been targeted. Well, right in the beginning when I came to this country, I was like walking along in Debenhams, and I think I wasn't walking fast enough or something, and this white guy behind me goes, "Oh, you think you're in Pakistan or something?"
What? Oh my God! Hang on, where were you? Manchester? What was that?
No, this was in Birmingham, and we were walking in Debenhams in the mall, and yeah, I think like it was busy or whatever, and I.
Oh, you cut out again for a second. Nightmare. So basically, this person is just very bold, obviously racist, and they thought that they.
Yeah, I mean, actually, we reported it to mall security, to the store security, and they asked the guy to leave and whatever. Like they did what they could, but like, yeah, I mean, I think that it's more like recently, it's kind of that fear of being out in public as a visibly Muslim woman is quite, I think, palpable for a lot of visibly Muslim women. I was in Aldi the other day and I saw these like two white women, from a certain like, how you can recognize how they're from a certain like class background or certain, and I literally just stopped in my tracks and had to like change aisles because I was like, I don't want to get too close to these women. Not that they did anything or said anything, but it's just whether or not they are like that in reality. I didn't want to take that risk.
I mean, the fear, and this is something that's maybe forgotten by people. Even if you're not attacked, you're still living in fear. Especially at the moment, but just all the time. And I don't think many white people recognize that as a thing that specifically visible with Muslim women go through.
And I think that this is what's so frustrating about the way that these media pundits and the way that kind of these talking heads speak about Muslims and the threat of immigration and so on and so forth. They don't realize the real world impact. They don't realize that it's creating a real threat to people's safety. It is really extremely reckless.
Yeah, reckless is a good word for that, actually. I don't think they know. Reckless is a fantastic word. I hope all you guys who are listening are also nominating on the hashtag, the Trashies. I suppose stay around, but I'm going to just go back to Actor, because Actor, so brilliant. You're back. you left for a while.
Yeah, I put restriction on my phone to say time is up.
Really? Oh gosh, I need to do that, but I'm glad you're back nonetheless. So you didn't get to make your full point, so I'd like you to continue where you left off, if you can remember.
Well, yeah. So the point I was trying to make was that basically is someone like Keir Starmer, could he be nominated for Trashies?
Actor, I don't know where you are, but if there's a window open, can you close it or whatever? There's a lot of background noise wherever you're speaking from.
Yeah, is it better now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So I was thinking, could someone like Keir Starmer be nominated for these? And if not, then what about someone like BBC not even bothering to write a story that this guy, I think this is the internal security minister in Israel, who just 2 days ago said that starving Palestinians is something we want to do, something along these lines. But the board would not let us do that. So it's almost like completely ignoring the Western press seems to be, BBC seems to be in this mood that those things don't matter.
Mm.
Can you imagine them running a headline, right? Running a story that this is one of the ministers in Israel, that they would like to stop people, or they would like to do this, or they would like to do that. But it's not as if Israeli government and most of the voices in the Israeli society have not been transmitting, telegraphing really clearly what the intention was to do
Mm.
to people together.
No, from day one, I think, we're going to cut off the electricity, cut off water. They said it very plainly, but for some reason, our politicians have their ears closed to that. But what are you saying? So I just want to sort of unpick this. Are you saying that the papers shouldn't report what they say word for word? Are you saying that they should have a different angle on how they report it?
No, I'm just saying the trashes should also include what they choose not to report. The Western press has consistently not reported what has been coming out of Israel itself. Even the supposedly liberal Haaretz newspaper, it would be considered anti-Semitic under definitions in Germany and in the UK. So BBC states past these kind of statements and the actions of the Israeli government. They just don't even bother to report.
Right. Okay. So you think things are missing in the reporting? Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, that's where independent media comes in. So what? So shouldn't the if the mainstream are getting it wrong, why it should be up to the independents to get it right? The independents are often funded by the people. I know Media Diversified was often, funded by donations and so on, and sometimes grants, not often, sadly. But I think Byline News is the same. Canary, funded by the readers. But do you think, what are you looking at when you see the independent platforms, the more lefty? So do you think they're not reporting very well as well?
No. I think they do a better job. It's not a question of that. The point I was trying to make was that trashies are about the spin that the likes of BBC put on certain stories and articles.
Yeah.
I think trashies obviously cannot be about something which is not there, and the thing that is not there is the lack of reporting that the likes of BBC
Yeah.
deliberately, in my view, deliberately do. They take this as a policy that they are not going to report what's actually being said in Israel.
This is true. I agree with you. So we actually kind of cover that with the trashies. I'll tell you how. So as well as articles that can be nominated, what we will do, we will put all of the publications, so including the BBC, the ITV, ITV, Daily Mail, the Independent, every publication, every mainstream publication and broadcaster, we put them into a poll, and people will vote for the worst, the worst platform. If it's the BBC, maybe they'll vote for that, and so on. So there's going to be there's 4 different polls that are going to come out, and I think maybe we haven't explained that enough. So I'm going to tell you, because I think that's where we're at cross purposes. So 1, we've got the articles you can you can nominate, and then 2, we're also this year going to have columnist of the year. So we will just put all the names of the columnists, the mainstream columnists. So we're talking Marina Hyde, Ian Dunt, all of them, Caitlin Moran, Suzanne Moore, all the columnists that that the publications promote. We're going to put them all into a list, and you can vote for the worst columnist. We're also going to do broadcasts. So some of the little clips you see, like the GB News one that I talked about before, or whatever clips we see. GMB have featured a lot recently because of Ed Balls and John Ashworth. So you can find a clip of what they said at some point, and you can nominate as the worst. You can nominate it as the worst broadcast as well. And then lastly, or is that it? Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe there's only 3. But you get me, Atta.
Yeah, no, I certainly do. It's unfortunate that the Western press has basically decided to close its eyes. And yes, they keep saying when they have somebody on the on a news show or in some kind of news story from the Palestinian side, saying, okay, this is what happened, this is what's going on, and all the rest of it. and then they go and say that at least the Israelis are going to dispute this, and
At least the Israelis are what? Sorry, repeat that.
the Israelis are going to dispute this, right?
Right. Yeah.
The school story, right, from yesterday. They will always repeat Israeli propaganda lines, but they will never say something like this. And then they write stuff like this: we cannot verify, right? But they will never say the next thing, which is this thing, that Israel has prohibited any independent journalist to go to Gaza. Right? Two things are linked, right? You have a story. There are people saying this is what happened. Israeli propaganda comes on air. They repeat the Israeli propaganda. Then they say that we cannot verify this. But the really important piece missing is that the reason we cannot verify because Israelis do not allow BBC journalists to go to Gaza.
Wow, you're right. That needs to be said. And they never say that. I wonder why. What do you think that they're specifically sympathetic to Israel, or are they just bad journalists and don't know that this is, that is context? Because us as readers and as consumers of news, we do appreciate some context, which is what you've given by what you've just said. Why are the BBC and Sky and all these places, why are they not giving context?
I think it's a mix of few things. There's certainly lack of representation, especially in senior positions. There's also some malfeasance and professional malpractice, and also just bad journalism as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I have to say, so I don't have I mean, I've got a TV, but I don't put it on, so I don't often see the live broadcasts and so on. I just see clips here and there, especially if they go viral. So I think I miss a lot, which perhaps you see more of, and some of our listeners see more of the whole context. So I feel like I don't get all the context because often I just see things on Twitter, videos or whatever. Because when I'm watching something, I watch films, I watch TV, I read a lot, but I don't watch broadcast news, which is what a lot of people do. So, I mean, there's two things going on there. For one, me as somebody who is an avid news consumer doesn't find all these broadcasters very interesting. But then so I don't watch them. But then two, I do get these out of context clips, and so that's a skewed vision of stuff. So really, someone like Saul, is it Saul son of Worth or whoever, and all these people who do clips? Yeah, I'm getting my news really filtered through them, and he's a good person if you're going to do it to do it, but. What about all the other people who maybe aren't that interested in news and just see these broadcasts which don't have the context? What do we do about them?
I'm not really sure there's much can be done, really. It's just like I think with most newspapers, right? Mostly headlines like 80%. Just read the headline and move on. So if you leave out, if you say 70 killed in school bombing, and that's the headline, you're not going to know who did the bombing. It's almost like it was like a joke today, right? So this Macron, Starmer, and Olaf Scholz of Germany, they put out a statement saying the tensions in the Middle East, they need to be dialed down, and we need to go to peace, and we need to the hostages and all the rest of it. It's like I mean, it's almost like you're writing this. These three leaders from supposedly three serious countries in the world, with some of the largest economies, put out a joint statement. And they and you're reading that statement, and I kind of tweeted on this saying, reading the statement, if you did not know any of the context, you would think the belligerents were Hamas, Gaza itself, Iran, and its allies. It's like this statement doesn't even mention. This is a joint official communique from these three leaders, which when talks about returning the hostages, does not even mention Israel even then. I mean, like, Israel is completely missing from this statement put out by these three people. So,
yeah, I did see that. I mean, a lot of people picked up on it, didn't they? But those are the normal anti-racist people who picked up on that. I wonder if anybody, the wider public, realised what was going on there.
Yeah, so this writer, I think, is a Portuguese philosopher, and he's a writer for the New Statesman, I think. And he said, if I read this and had not been following the news for a year, I would think Iran had invaded Gaza and Hamas is holding Iranian hostages. So I said, my reading is this: Hamas was fighting the people of Gaza and holding hostages from Iran, which was trying to free them.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of people who actually probably do think that at this point, and that is the fault of who was it, David Lammy, and whoever put those statements out, Keir Starmer, as well. Maybe we need a Trashies award for the politicians as well, but I'm not sure if we get away with that or not. But I will think about it for next time. Yeah. Definitely. Okay, let's see. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak? Obviously, I've invited a few people, but also, just put your hand up if you did want to speak. Faisal, it would be great to speak to you, considering we were chatting earlier. I think I sent you an invitation, so if you'd like to come, do come. But in the meantime, so I just tweeted out the article that Afroz wrote for us back in 2019, actually, and the title of it is called "Institutional Islamophobia is Far from the Only Problem with the Conservative Party." And I thought it was an important article to tweet out in this moment, considering all of this sort of what's happening right now is seeded by 14 years of a Tory government, I would say. And so I'll just read out a little bit of what she wrote. So she's talking about Warsi, Sida Warsi. And so for me, as a politically engaged Muslim woman of Pakistani heritage in the UK, Warsi, being a woman from the same background, is of little relevance. Her contribution to politics means little in terms of representation if the party of which she continues to be a member has proven itself time and time again to be fundamentally unjust in its treatment of the most marginalised and vulnerable groups within British society. So I think what the context is that Warsi had come out and that she had said, I'm not sure what she said. She has also been told. Anyway, you know who Baroness Saida Warsi is, and some of the statements she's made about the Tory party over the years. Obviously, she was right in the middle of the establishment for quite a long time until she left the inner chamber and sort of went outside as more of an agitator to try and look at their what she's called institutional Islamophobia, as far as I remember. And so she goes on to say, while I sympathise with Warsi's efforts, because it can't be easy being an Asian Muslim woman trying to address bigotry against her own people in a party that is overwhelmingly white, both racially and ideologically, I do have a message for all British Muslims. Is the Conservative Party institutionally Islamophobic? Or how deep does the problem of Islamophobia run in the party? Are not the questions we should be asking. If our bar for establishing the merit of a political party is only based on how it serves our own people, then this is a very low bar indeed. So political engagement at its core is not just about being concerned with how decisions made by those in power affect me or my loved ones. Rather, it is about how those in power serve society at large in all its multiple facets, including and especially those at its margins, who have historically at best been ignored and at worst been left to die. I think that's so interesting. I don't think I've read this article before, and I'm glad I'm doing it now. So Afroz goes on to say, cuts to healthcare spending were linked to a reported 10,000 additional deaths during January to March 2018 alone. 10,000 additional deaths. Good Lord. Tory policy has been directly linked to what is now being referred to as a homelessness crisis. And between 2013 and 2017, homelessness caused 230 deaths. The annual rate of people dying doubled in this 5-year period. Yeah, the Tory party really, I'm going to just use the word, they fucked us over, let's say. Afroze, maybe you could unmute for a minute. I saw your hand. Unmute and just talk us a bit about that article you wrote just 5 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know, 5 years, I'm not sure if it's a long time in terms of the internet, but it's still, as relevant as ever. I think maybe the main kind of update is that we have Labour in power now, and actually they are not much better, unfortunately. They ran on a platform
Oh, you cut out for a second.
They
Come
have
back. Come back.
artists.
Afraid
Hello?
you cut out for a second. So can you start that point again, please? Sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying about the Labour Party, how they ran on a platform of being anti-immigration. They've tried their hardest while in opposition to kind of win over Tory voters by basically becoming another version of the Tories. And that is what they are now. So really what we have now in government, the party that we have, is not much better than the Tories, unfortunately. We've already seen cuts, announcements about cuts to welfare, to pensions, to, benefits for pensioners and all of these things. And they're all, unfortunately, part of this agenda of moving further to the right of the political spectrum. So I think actually in a lot of ways, all the stuff that I've said about the Tory party applies now ideologically to the Labour Party. The only difference is that with the Tories, they've been in power this whole time. So policies have harmed people. I'm willing to put money on the fact that if this Labour Party doesn't change and stays in power over the next 10 years, we will have the same sort of track record for the Labour Party as well.
I mean, what it feels like, they're sort of Tory light, but more efficient. and want to be seen as the adults in the room. That phrase keeps going around, but really, I mean, I think it's only come out now how inefficient the Tories were with money and spending and all of this stuff, where they could have helped a lot of people. They decided not to, but they were inefficient in not helping. I think the Labour Party seems to be very efficient at not helping. And I would say if there's anybody who are Thatcher's children, perhaps that's who we have in the cabinet now.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I think that the biggest kind of, I mean, I'm not sure if you meant efficiency in this sense, but in terms of like economic efficiency, one of the worst things that is draining public,
Oh, you cut out again for a second, a phrase. Sorry.
What point did I cut out?
What draining public efficiency?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that's draining public spending at the moment is investment in sort of private, allowing the private sector to take over public assets. That includes the NHS. That includes, public transport facilities, utilities, all of these things that are actually ending up costing the government more money.
So
it's very weird.
So
they're doing things like outsourcing.
So it's actually ideological what they're doing more than efficient, is what you're saying.
Very much, yeah. It's not, because they came out and said, I'm pretty sure Wes Streeting came out and spoke in favor of privatization in the NHS.
Yeah, he did.
Which is not at all efficient. But it's very much ideological. Yeah.
Why do they call themselves Labour then? What the hell is going on? Labour was always they're called Labour because of the party of the workers and unions, I believe, rather than
Historically, yes, but that's just not the case anymore, unfortunately.
Where did it go wrong? It can't have just been since Corbyn came in and went.
I mean, yeah, I think it's just, creeping like capitalism, neoliberalism, the influence of private business interests on politicians, which is demonstrable. You can see like there's a money trail with private sector, private businesses supporting politicians that they think will serve their interests in parliament, and that's how they end up staying in power.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that 14-year break was just them, gathering their whatever they wanted to do to continue Tony Blair's legacy, because he was going that way, I guess, back in the early 2000s, whenever he left. I can't remember now what year. Yeah. Okay. So I can't remember. I think I said that I just had a message saying I thought you were ending at 9, and I guess we were ending at 9. And that is okay to do. Obviously, we've recorded the space and so on. What I really, really, really want from people is to start nominate. I'm gonna I'm going to extend nominations till 10 p.m. And so you have an hour. And Actor, I'm speaking to you as well because you had a lot to say, but I haven't seen you nominate anything. Whoever that James is on board, Peter, Eleni, Sharon, Helen, Zaina, everybody who's on here, I want you all to nominate an article or a broadcast clip that you've seen around and put the Trashies hashtag on. Yeah. So just to thank you all so much for coming. Afroz, was there anything last words you had to say? I don't want to not come back to you if you've got. Well, if there is, put your hand up. Okay, you. So yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that no, it's really good to see the Trashies back. I think especially in this day and age with
Oh, you cut out.
you know, race riots basically in the UK. Everything that's been going on currently, we've seen blatantly and quite obviously the role of the media. So I think the Trashies play a really important role in sort of accountability in that regard.
That's the right word, yeah. Accountability.
So yeah, so it's great to
Woo-hoo!
see.
Yay! Well, you're definitely invited to the party. I'll tell you that. Okay. Okay. We'll announce all that stuff in the coming days. Yeah. So the polls will open on Wednesday. Actor, was there anything you last wanted to say?
No, I'm good, thank you.
You're good. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I am going to end it here. I'm going to have, I don't know, I'm going to put some loud music on and I'm going to do something. I don't know. So thank you. And I'm going to end it there. Take care. Good night. Nominate.
Bye.
Bye.